Hey, I love therapy, and in fact, I've been going to therapy since I was around 6 years old. Though I talk about therapy a lot and may interview some therapists on the show on occasion, nothing that is said in this podcast should be considered a replacement for therapy. If you are struggling, I urge you to please seek guidance from a therapist because you are absolutely worth it. Everyone, you are listening to Wine, Dine, and 69, a podcast about dating, relationships, sex, and self-love. I am your host, Rachel Dalton. I'm coming at you from my new apartment, which I've been at for a week. I love it. I have to say, it has felt more like home in 1 week than my last place felt in a year. I really love it, and it reminds me a lot of my childhood home, so I think there's a little bit of nostalgia vibes. But I bought flowers for myself, and I've started cooking nice meals for myself. I don't know, it feels really good. And you know what, I talk about dating myself a little bit in today's conversation, so that applies here too. I'm doing a really good job dating myself, especially since I've moved, let me tell you. This intro is going to be short and sweet today. I had so much fun talking to these two that we went a little long, so you're not going to hear very much from me in this beginning part, but I do feel like it is important to say, following up on the intro from the last episode 2 weeks ago. The last episode aired on June 3rd. It is now June 17th when this will be airing. 2 weeks. And there have been 34 mass shootings since the last episode aired. In 2 weeks, there have been 34 mass shootings. And the day after the last episode aired, one of the mass shootings was in my town, in my home of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, an area of the city that I frequent, that I've been to quite a bit. It could have, easily been somebody that I know. So a little close to home there. And if you want to hear the rant about gun control, you can see last week's episode where I talk about that, and I also rant about Roe v. Wade. But I am really trying to not allow this to turn into a political podcast, as much as I'm very revved up politically these days. I have been writing to my representatives, and you know what? In the future, I just said I wasn't going to make this a political podcast. Come on, Rachel. In the future, I will have to read the letter that I wrote back to one of my representatives because I did not appreciate his tone or what he had to say in his email to me. So I came home from work one day and I sat down at my computer and I fucking went off on him about what pro-life really means. So all of that being said, I'm going to post in the episode notes a link to, there's an archive of gun violence. It's so unfortunate that that even exists, but it does. There's an archive of mass shootings at gunviolencearchive.org, and it keeps track of all of the different mass shootings that have occurred. That's where I got the information and, did the count of how many since the last episode have aired. Again, can I say it's been 34. Breathe, Rachel. So definitely check that out. I also put a ton of other really cool things in the episode notes this week, because we talk about a lot of cool stuff in this interview. Today I talked to Dennis and Jesse of Fantastic Escapades. They have a couple of really great products. They have a CBD lube, and they have a romantic massage oil. And I got to try both. They're both fantastic. Highly recommend. And, Dennis and Jesse, I did actually end up passing off Honeypot to, not the same friends, but a couple of other friends that were helping me to move. So, that's true friendship right there, like we just say in the episode. yeah, I have a ton of really great things there. Links to Honeypot, links to Romantic Escapade. And then you can also submit your own fantasies at Fantastic Escapades /escapades. So definitely check out those links. And you know what? I'm not even going to do an ad today because this is going to be your ad. So to get one of these products for a discounted price, you are going to put the products in your cart. You are going to go to the checkout and enter the coupon code WINEDINE6920. And from there, you'll get some money off and you get to try one of these really new, incredible products in your own home. So definitely check that out. Also, be sure to check out the Fantasy Escapades and feel free to submit your fantasy there. And be sure to follow these two on social media too, because they are just honestly super cool people and a beautiful couple with a beautiful story. And I think that they made me believe in love again. So there's that too. All right, everybody, I'm not going to cut to a quick commercial break. I am going to just have some comfortable silence, which is something that I myself have been enjoying quite a bit lately. So going to do that. And then please enjoy my conversation with Dennis and Jesse. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I am super excited to be here today with my guests, Dennis and Jesse. How are you both today?
We're doing great.
Very good. Very happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to speak with both of you. We were saying before I started recording that it's always fun to get a couple on to. It's just a beautiful view into somebody's relationship, and I'm like a nosy person, which is why I do this. Uh-huh. So it's a really beautiful look to see how people operate. But with that, I guess tell me a little bit about each of you individually. And, it all starts, your relationship with sex always starts with how you were raised and how you grew up. So, tell me about individually what that process was like for you.
Well, I think it actually started with a glass of wine, and I'm going to let Jesse share a little bit of how wine turned into a long relationship and a long marriage.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, we grew up in the same small town in the Midwest, and he's a little older than me. So he went away to college and came back, and I had graduated college, and he was in the military, and I'd grown up, and I was drinking the pink shit. We called it white zin.
White zin, yes.
Yeah. And he had been all around the world in Germany and Italy and all these places where they have amazing wines. And so he said, no more white shit. You should try this red wine that rolls off your tongue like rose petals. Ooh. And I was just hooked, okay. And we had a lot of it, and we kissed on the couch at a Christmas party.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, I kissed him. And then we have talked every day since and been married for 15 years and have 5 kids. And
oh my gosh.
So that is kind of how our relationship started. He lived in Texas. I lived in Minnesota at the time.
Okay.
And so our dating was all long distance. And then we got engaged in Central Park, and I moved to Texas, and we've had a wonderful adventure ever since.
That's amazing.
That first kiss was really funny because I would never have kissed her. I mean, to me, she was just the little girl who lived across the street. And even after she had graduated from college, I still had that vision of her.
Of course, right.
And so she had to just drop the veil by planting one on me.
Yep. I am an adult and I am attracted to you.
Yeah.
Yep. And he looked at me after that and he said, "You're a woman." I was like, "Yep."
You're like, I truly am. No, that's such a cool story.
It was unbelievable. And the next few days I was just floating on a cloud, and it was awesome. It was an awesome beginning to our relationship.
That is, I'm just so jealous. And I have so many questions for you just about how you just sound so in love. I'm wondering
we are. If it's not coming across, and trust me, there's been a lot of ups and downs, like with any relationship, but it's like, even with the worst parts of each of us, it's like we're completely in love with each other.
Yeah. And I guess like, that's what I'm wondering. Like, how do you maintain that and have that faith through those ups and downs? And I mean, I'm a little jaded right now when it comes to relationships. So like, how do you make that work? I mean, I know we'll get to the sex stuff too, like, of course, but I'm just right now, I'm curious about like how that commitment that you have to one another and being able to maintain, this romantic connection, this emotional bond, and, along with that, like the sexual connection, like how do you do it? And how do you trust that the other person's going to continue to do it with you?
Well, I think one thing that is for both of us is we are each other's favorite person to do nothing with, to do everything with. We just love to be together, hang out, and that has been awesome. And we also understand that each of us are evolving. And so who we married 15 years ago is very different than the person we are right now.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And that has probably been one of the harder parts, because it's like, I don't know, I didn't sign up for this guy, but everybody's changing. And it's just like I remember a quote when we were first getting married that it was like, don't find the perfect person. You just have to love an imperfect person perfectly, which is, a tongue twister, but that really has been powerful for us.
Yeah, no, you should check out Alain de Botton. He has great stuff about marriage. Yeah. Great stuff.
So that is, we both know each other isn't perfect, and but we just, he's my favorite person. I'm just crazy about him still. What do you think?
Well, I don't know if this is a factor or not, but to touch on sex a little bit, like, I think I grew up in a very religiously strict home, kind of.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And so I was definitely conditioned by what life and relationship should be like. And so I kind of came into our relationship, and we were actually telling the kids this story at dinner last night, but I came in and said, hey, we're going to court each other, kind of like old school. Mm-hmm. Like we're going to find out if we're right for marriage. And if we find out at anywhere along the point that we aren't, we're just going to stop wasting each other's time. But if we continue to progress, then we're trying to answer the question, do we want to get married or not? And so the other part of that is we, for the most part, abstained from sex. Like we messed around a little bit, and Jesse was definitely more open and more, I don't know, like sexual than I was. I was sexual, but I would really like hold back. I was holding back because I didn't want to, I don't know, like complicate things if they didn't work out. But, I don't know if that's, the reason that we have such a good relationship. Today, I don't think that it is. My mind and my thoughts have definitely changed over, 15 years of marriage and how, when I look back on what I thought and what I believed at that point. But that's just kind of how we did it. And then when we did get married, it was just like we were just totally into each other. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of my take on it. And we answered the question that we were right for marriage.
Right.
But,
no, I love that. I love love. I'm jaded, but I love love so much. No, that's incredible. Like how did your religious upbringing kind of impact? I guess you like quasi answered this question, but I kind of want to like dig a little deeper. How did that impact like your relationship with sex? Again, you said that you were kind of like a sexual person, but not openly so.
Right.
How did you navigate that?
I think, so I haven't done any therapy or anything like that, but I read a lot and I do a lot of introspection, and probably to a fault, but
no.
Like I think, well, for me, it's like there's a lot of sexual suppression, which is not a positive thing. Like I would, Jesse and I would mess around, or we would,
Right.
like,
Everything but kind
yeah,
of thing.
like everything but sex, because sex is the thing that's sanctioned,
Exactly.
by the church or whatever. And I would like almost go into depression, like, like, oh, I can't believe we did that.
Disappointed in himself.
It's a lot of shame. Yeah.
Yeah. And so
Yeah.
I just think that now when I think about it, like it's such a beautiful, wonderful thing. And, if I went back and told my younger self, like, hey, just relax, like it's okay, and now I'm very openly sexual, and a lot of that has to do with Jesse. Like, Jesse brought that okayness into this world for me, and it's been 15 years in the making, but I'm looking at her now, like just like very thankful to her for like bringing the fun and bringing the lightheartedness, and that's what sex and sexuality should be.
Yes. Everybody takes it so damn seriously.
Yeah. And so my thoughts and beliefs have shifted and changed quite a bit over the years,
Wow. Yeah. And, Jesse, like, how did you kind of navigate that as, I guess it sounds weird to say, like, as a teacher, but like,
Yeah, I just was very much experienced in that stuff from college and high school, and had lots of boyfriends and lots of messing around. And so when we got together, I was like, this is what we do. And he was, in a way it was good, because he was like, didn't want to, how do you say, do you want to get messy like that? Like, let's get to know each other. And sometimes, it can just kind of complicate things early. But so I went, down to visit him in Texas, and he was like, you're going to sleep in this room and I'm going to sleep in this one. And I was like,
oh, that's adorable.
What? Are you crazy? Like, I came down here, we're not sleeping together. And there were times that, I broke him, but in a good way. But then he would feel like so bad afterwards, because he really wanted us to work, and he didn't want that to confuse things for him. And then it was just really fun as we kind of explored, as he would kind of let go. And I was just very playful in that way. And it was just kind of fun to explore that. And then after we got married, it was really fun to just, explore each other.
Yeah, all rules are off at that point.
Yeah, all rules were off. Yeah. And he felt so good about it. And I mean, and we can joke about it now, but now he is like the exact opposite person. Like, he's the one like, let's try this, let's try this, let's try this. And I'm like, okay, I'm a little more middle of the road now, like I'm a mother, and he's like, let's try it all, So it's just, I'm like, okay, this is two different Jennies that I got.
Well, this is funny, Rachel, and you'll appreciate this because you know Layla, and you probably know Layla's story, who we've mutual acquaintances of ours, and her story of, she had basically abstained from sex for 3.5 years, and because of business, and then decided to write a sex bucket list.
Yep.
It's kind of like, it's just kind of a fun story and very inspiring. And when I heard it, I was like, well, actually, that's kind of what I was thinking before I even met Layla. It's just like, oh, that would be kind of fun. Just, to relax and just do a sex bucket list, and just like, go out into the world with Jesse and just have fun and be lighthearted and like see what happens, type of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. The world is your oyster. And I mean, if you have like a partner who is willing to try all those things, or at least talk about them. I talk about like a stoplight analogy. Like, if you talk about things that you want to try, like green is a hell yes, we both want to do it.
Fun,
yellow is a maybe, a red is a absolutely not. Like, I do not want that.
That is a good analogy.
Like, and that's whenever I talk to people about like communicating about differing sexual desires. That's kind of how I paint it.
Right. That's good.
But
Jesse can identify that with that as a kindergarten teacher.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Red, yellow, green.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say, just like the growing up piece, Denny grew up very staunch and shameful about, sexuality and stuff. And my mom was an anatomy teacher, and my parents were very, what's the word with each other? Just always very open about, being together. And so we kind of grew up differently in that way. I just thought sex was awesome and beautiful, and our bodies were awesome and beautiful. And so then when Denny and I got together and we had babies, it was like, how do we want to raise the kids? And we're just a very sex positive family. We just are very open with the kids, and that has been, I think a cool way for Denny to evolve and, for us to raise our family in that way.
Absolutely. And that's the beauty of like creating your own family, right? Is you get to decide how to do that. Because I think I was raised closer to like what you're describing with, my mother, very much like encouraging us like that masturbation is important and good and should probably exactly.
Yeah, that's cool. I did not get that. And I literally was like that person who would masturbate and like have negative emotions and feelings afterwards, and it was
go
just
to the priest and ask for forgiveness.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, I have heard that story from so many different times. And I mean, I have my own thoughts about, religion and how it fucks us all up in terms of that. But that's a different podcast.
But on a positive note, it's never too late, right? It's never too late to kind of like have a different perspective and go, you know what? I'm changing.
Yeah.
And it's a conscious effort, and sometimes it's not. It just kind of happens organically.
Right. Yeah, organically is a good way to say how Denny kind of evolved into, more spirituality and just kind of accepting himself the way he is.
Right.
Celebrating himself.
Yeah. Because I'm really fun and really sexual, and I always have been. That's the thing. It's just I felt bad about it. But it's like I like sexual jokes. I like talking about sex.
We think life's better with dirty minds.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
It's more funny. And that's, kind of what brought us to Honeypot.
Yes, I was just going to go there. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what brought us there. Is he was like, okay, what are my passions? What am I interested in? And it was like, well, this is maybe a cool way to explore this arena, with lube and massage oils and things like that.
So was there like something that happened in the relationship, or just kind of like, I know that sometimes couples are like, oh, like we're getting like, there's a little bit of a stagnant period or something. Was there anything going on in the relationship, or was it just kind of outside of that, trying to figure out, what you wanted to do with your time?
Yeah. I think it was the latter. It was, we had career changes and then I wanted to go into entrepreneurship, and it was just kind of like figuring out what do we want to do for our first, product or idea out of the gate. And I was reading a book by Russell Brunson, like 30 days and, how to start a business in 30 days type of thing, which by the way, you can't do that.
It's harder.
You can't start a business in 30 days. Okay. So it's been a year and a half, and it's just a continual work in progress. But I was meditating and reading this book by a little pond near our house, and I came back one morning and just said, hey, Jess, what do you think about a lubricant, and we'll infuse it with CBD, because CBD had just become legalized in the state of South Dakota. And Jessie just hopped right on it, and she was like, yeah, and we can call it Honeypot, play on words. And, there's probably a lot of couples out there that, call the anatomy of a woman their little honeypot or something like that. And then the play on words with marijuana and stuff like that. So it was kind of, that's where it started. And
we had, we have had experiences with lube, just like going to the store and picking certain ones up. And then we had tried a really good silicone lube.
Yeah.
And it was kind of life-changing. Like, that was really good. And that made, sex in the shower easier or things like that. And so that's kind of where the idea of lubricant came from. And then, then he had the idea, and he calls, me his honeypot. And so I was like, honeypot. And that was kind of where the genesis of the product came from.
Okay. And like, how do you go about making like were you doing like science experiments in your kitchen late at night?
Yeah, something like that. We did do a lot of samples from the manufacturer, and just like we're still to this day still fine tuning it. We get feedback from customers, and we're like, okay, we want to improve this, so we go to the manufacturer and get samples and try to improve it, and
put a little on our hand and put it underwater. And
yeah, I mean, literally, like we're telling the manufacturer, like, videotape this. This is what it should look like. This is how it should, flow. This is how it should look in your hand. So yeah, it's a process.
And it's a little hard with Denny, because when we're going to have sex with our lube, I have to say, this is not like a business. This is, you can't be thinking work. Yeah. You can't be thinking, okay, like, don't get in your head about work and how it works, and just, enjoy yourself.
What a beautiful thing, though.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember we got our second batch in, and it was really fun story, but we got the second batch in, we put it in the truck, we went and got a coffee, and then we went and parked at a park and hopped in the back seat, and we had the best sex of our lives. Like,
nice.
It was,
I love that.
Like, yeah, she just crawled over me and was like straddling me, and like the feelings and the emotions for both of us were like, it was like exhilarating. It was just so much fun, and
it's exciting. There's that.
And we both kind of looked at each other and were like, wow, that really worked. Like, we're getting somewhere.
Yeah.
And you feel like it was the lube rather than like, the fact that it was in a public place, or, the fear of getting caught.
All the things.
Yeah, it was probably a lot of things
combo deal
going on, but definitely it was like, the
perfecting
lube definitely
the lube.
helped, and just, feeling accomplished, like, oh, wow.
You were happy with it. You were happy with that solution. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
But it's funny that, you can be as happy as you want, but that doesn't always answer the needs of the customers. So that's a really tricky thing is, I'm kind of a person who wants 100% satisfaction from the customers, but a lot of times it's like asking them, okay, what do you want? What do you need? And that is something I still learn to this day. Have you ever played the game Apples to Apples?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So you know it. So you know that you have to like think of the other person's perspective.
Yep. Exactly.
That's such a good game for like business or, meeting your customers' needs, because you have to think of it from their perspective. And it doesn't come naturally to me. Like when I play Apples to Apples, I always like put the ones that are funny to me, and
right.
they'll think this is funny because.
Yeah, it's a game of like trying to understand. I play like Cards Against Humanity.
Yeah.
It's like the idea of trying to understand another person's like sense of humor,
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and that's the beauty of, and that's the beauty of, and the shitty thing about it is like you're never going to make everybody 100% happy, right?
Yeah, you just got to know it going in.
Yeah. And Denny's personality, he definitely gets his cup filled from people who are like, it's an awesome product. We love it. Thank you so much. Sex is comfortable again, or I'm enjoying sex again. And then when people say like, I didn't like it or whatever, it like hits him so hard, maybe less now as you've been in business longer, but it just, you don't have the emotion so big where it hurts you, personally, like you said.
Yeah. So one of the funny things is that, we came up with Honeypot first, but then we polled our customers and asked them, hey, what's another product you want? And they said massage oil was kind of like the feedback that we got. So then we went to the drawing board on Romantic Escapade, which is our recent massage oil that we just released on February 14th, Valentine's Day this year.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And that turned out really good right off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, basically a 50-50 mixture of jojoba oil and apricot kernel oil. And then it's got some rose scent in there. And so basically that kind of backs things up, because like one of the things that Jesse and I have learned from like being with each other for so long is like, if I take the time to, hey, lay down and let me give you a massage and just slow things down, and like I'll straddle her as she's laying down and just rub massage oil all over her back and butt and legs and everything. And then all of a sudden it's like, she's just like yearning for me to be with her. And it's really, and that has really kind of changed our sexual experience too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like he's learned, how women work, and just that we're a little bit more of a slow cooker, and I have to get my mind right and mind there.
Oh my
and so
gosh.
it definitely has been, just a game changer for us.
They say a woman's biggest, most important sexual organ is her brain.
Right. Yes. And having a lot of little ones and stuff, just like slowing life down and having him kind of, worship me. And it just kind of sets the stage for a fun time.
Yeah. Yeah. It's and I can imagine too, like, like you said with the kids, like you have to make it a priority. And
Yes.
I imagine that there's a lot of having to, or at least I would imagine, having kids, that it's like trying to fit in sex,
Mhm.
between thing A or thing B, or when
Yes.
the kids are asleep, or, whatever it might
Yeah.
be.
Yeah.
But actually being able to, like, take that time.
Yes, that's very true.
Yeah, that's actually leads to a funny kind of story or way we live our life. It's like we always like, oh, let's have sex tonight, and I kind of laugh because I know it usually doesn't work if we wait till the night. Like as soon as Jesse's in bed, it's like almost like she's gone, But there's so much sexual energy between us during the day, like little looks or little touches and stuff like that. And
That's
it's like
foreplay.
yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we've really done a good job of is just using that energy right then and there, if at all possible. And it might be she's doing laundry or whatever, and then all of a sudden we're having sex over the washer and dryer, and it's just like getting into it right when we have that energy.
Instead of trying to plan it.
Yeah. Instead of like, okay,
let's do it tonight.
Yeah, I'm so into you right now. I'm going to have sex with you tonight. Like, okay.
We'll
okay,
see.
big talker.
And like, how does like kids, you had 5, right?
Yep.
So many kids. Like,
so we've only had sex 5 times.
How do you navigate that? Like, I mean, I know you said you raised them, to be understanding of.
Yeah.
Like, do you just say like, mom and dad need to go have sex?
Danny's a little bit more like that with them. Like he'll lock the door or he'll shut the door, and I'm like, okay, you need to lock it. I don't want them to walk in here. And he's like, well, if they see us, then they see a healthy relationship, having sex. I'm like, yeah, but nobody needs to see their parents having sex.
I would agree with that. Yes.
So, but then like the girls will have the door shut, and they'll come in, and we're just talking, and they're like, oh, I thought you guys were having sex. No.
Jesse does a good job distinguishing the difference between being shameful about sex and being private about sex.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you expand on that?
Part of the reason I'm kind of more open is kind of combat that.
Sure.
That shame part of sex. Like we're not shameful to be naked, or we're not shameful to be having sex. But Jesse, who doesn't have a lot of shame with sex, just says, well, it's not that it's shameful. It's that it's private for us to, have this time together.
Yeah. And for me as the mom, like I don't want to be momming and hot mama at the same time. That's not easy for me.
There needs to be some separation there for sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, but they're very, kind of roll their eyes, kind of playful. And I don't know if I want to say happy for us, but they love that, we love each other, and they have a lot of friends whose parents are divorced, and that's not bad, but that's, like they're just grateful that we are so playful and love each other so much. And, if Denny has told them like, oh yeah, because one time we did find the lube in the truck. Why do you have lube in the truck? Well, because we have sex in the truck sometimes. What? Well, not when we're driving. Like,
not all the time.
Yeah. So things like that. I mean, we're more playful with them and pretty honest when they ask questions and stuff like that.
Yeah. How old are your kids, if you don't mind me asking?
14, 12, 8, 4, and 2.
Okay. No. Yeah. Wow. You have a big range there.
Yeah. So
someday, and in society, age is so ingrained. Like you can't. You're an adult when you're 18. You can't drink till you're 21.
Right.
And there's a few things Jesse and I have implemented with ages in our family. And, one was when they turn 5, they can choose to get earrings or piercings or not. And then we always talk to our kids when they turn 7 about sex and sexuality. And And I don't know if that's too young or too old, but it's
I think I
worked
was
out.
around that age. Yeah. I think I was 8.
Yeah, our daughter just really wanted to know. Like, she was asking a lot of questions, and when we talked to our oldest about it, we said, "This is not your job to teach anybody on the playground, and or your siblings," because she had been hearing things on the playground, and Denny kind of has this idea, like, let's beat the kids on the playground to the answers,
Yeah.
To the hard conversations.
like. What's a blowjob? And somebody said blowjob on the bus and stuff like that. And if you've already kind of said, what are these things? And they, it's not as big a deal.
And it like engenders like a trust that you can have with your parents, like I know my mom like took me for a walk and explained to me what it all was. And, we had that conversation and she said, it is something that I would prefer that you would wait until marriage. But if you decide not to do that, I don't want you to feel shame about like telling me I'd rather you be safe. So if you do decide that you're not going to wait until marriage, come talk to me and we'll make sure that you're being safe. And I won't judge you. I just want you to be safe.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of how my parents were with me too.
Yeah. Like it just, and I think it's a good way of handling it. Just, you have to, and as a result, my mom probably knows more than she would like to. So like I've done a walk of shame home before and come in the next morning and she'll be like, how was your night? And I'll be like, fucking fantastic. How was yours? She probably now knows more than she would like to.
Is she one of your listeners on your podcast?
Seldom. Sometimes. Depends on the episode.
Sure.
Yeah, it depends on the episode. If it's something where I'm getting pretty graphic, then she doesn't listen. But my dad listens sometimes too.
That's cool.
So, again, they mostly listen to ones that I give them the green light on.
Sure. I know I told my mom, she said something about Googling our name or Googling us. And I said, if you don't want to know, you better not Google us. Because
do your parents know about all this?
My parents do.
Okay.
Yeah, it was kind of a sisters saw TikTok that we had done and they were like, can you want to tell me more?
Oh.
So yeah, my family knows. And I just said, you can look into it as much as you want, but I tend to be an oversharer, so you might not want to.
Yeah, that's kind of how I am too. Yeah, it's a process, and learning kind of what you were saying about like shame and privacy, different things.
Right. Different people's comfortableness.
Exactly. Like I'm definitely learning that I'm an oversharer too, very much so. Like I was in therapy last week and my therapist was like, thank you for like being vulnerable and sharing with me. And I was like, I should do that less actually. You don't need to thank me. It is my natural state to just bulldoze over and express what I'm feeling. Like I probably should be more private and share less.
I think it's a good thing. I think the world needs people to be more openly honest and just, what they see as the truth and talk about it. It's just because that's what draws other human beings to other human beings is when they're vulnerable. Exactly.
No, I think that's completely true. 100%.
And I do think another part of, the business that Denny, Fantastic Escapades has created is Fantasy Escapades. Is that the name? Mm-hmm. And that's been a really cool piece of the business too, because it's sharing your sexual fantasies and kind of like a post secret or something. And
okay, so it's like an online.
Yeah, like you can share your fantasy, or you can share like a sexy escapade that happened to you. And so that's been fun. A safe place to kind of share something or crazy idea, and then have somebody read it and think, I've had that, fantasy. Maybe I'm not so weird, or things like that.
Yeah, the whole thing was about trying to make people feel connected and not like isolated. I can just imagine like people are thinking like, am I the only one that thinks this or whatever? Well, no, you're not. Like tons of people have, experienced life in this way or would like to experience life in this way, and it's possible,
Yeah. I mean, the fact of the matter is like, there's a lid for every pot.
Right.
And like there's going to be people out there who are going to be like compatible in that way and have the similar interests. And yeah, you're like, nobody is alone in that.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, even some of the, I'm trying to figure out how to like phrase it. Like even some of like the horrible things that people do, they're not the only person who does them.
Right.
So like people even have that in common, you know? So no, yeah, any kink that somebody could mention to me, whatever it is, I like can guarantee to you that there are other people who have it. Like, okay,
Right.
so this is like a little aside. I don't think I've talked about it in the podcast before, but so I'm in Philadelphia, and it's just reminded me of. Just bear with me.
Okay.
But there was a man, maybe like 5 or 6 years ago, who would drive around Philadelphia without pants on and have Swiss cheese and ask women if they would jack him off with the Swiss cheese.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you Google Swiss cheese pervert, Philadelphia Swiss cheese pervert, like, and it's so bizarre, but I guarantee you there are other people in the world who have that same.
Who like Swiss cheese?
Right.
Or a woman's hand.
Right. Like, it's just like, and for some reason it was like, people were like, why Swiss cheese? And he was like, it's like a texture thing. Like it just, I think it's bizarre. And obviously like he was not getting consent. Like, great if like, you and your partner at home want to experiment with Swiss cheese, good on you. But like, you can't go around just flashing people and asking them to jack you off with Swiss cheese.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's not the only person who has that. I guarantee it.
Yeah.
Right.
So
there's one fun. I'm just going to read one of the fantasy escapades we got here. To me, it's really hot, but it seems to be from a woman, but it could be from a guy too. But it says, when my husband and I are out at a restaurant on a date, I wish he would just push all the food and plates and glasses off the table and make love to me right there.
Yeah. No, I love that.
Yeah.
That's
So
great.
it's just kind of fun to hear people's stories. And we had a customer that wrote me a message personally just about his love story and his wife. They'd been married 30 years and she passed away, and they would just, he just wishes, that they would have had Honeypot together because it would have been wild and crazy. And I said, can we share this story on our Fantasy Escapades page? Because it's so sweet. And he said we could. And so we're going to be adding that one soon. But just fun stories about people's relationships and fantasies and stuff like that. It's fun to get to know our customers in that way.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's that vulnerability, right? Like it's the emotional vulnerability, but it's also like the physical vulnerability.
Right.
Of people sharing. Well, with Honeypot, you mentioned that CBD was kind of beginning to become a hot thing and was legalized. Where did the idea really for like CBD infused? I mean, were there other products out there that had a similar thing? Like what? Where did that kind of come from?
I didn't really see anything like that, but I did some research and just found out like a lot of the positive things about CBD, and just how it can, be absorbed into the skin and the positive natures of it. And it just basically kind of can help support a healthy immune system and help support a healthy cardiovascular system and kind of relax muscles and things like that. And so I just thought, well, this would be a fit, because a lot of people have, whether it's the massage oil or the Honeypot, a lot of people have anxiety around sex and sexuality and intimacy. And so I thought, well, a lot of people use, and to be honest, a lot of people use consumable CBD, which ours is not consumable. You wouldn't get hurt by consuming it, but you'd have to, drink bottles of it to get any effect.
It probably wouldn't taste great.
Right. But anyway, but just to kind of have that as a part of the ingredients to reduce anxiety and to relax people and kind of get into that mode in the mind and the body, is going to be a positive thing.
Yeah. No, and it is CBD. It has like a cooling, I've tried the product.
Good.
And and like it kind of has like a cooling effect.
Mhm.
And okay, this is definitely an episode my parents can't listen to because of what I'm going to say. But I kind of, the way that I had the product on my counter. I had 2 friends come over to help me move yesterday. Shout out to my friends B and Laura. Thank you for your assistance.
Yeah,
But it
way
was
to help your friend.
the products were on the counter, and they were like, "What's that?" And I said, "Oh, I have an interview with this couple, tomorrow." Who they were like, "Well, like what? How does it work?" And I was kind of explaining it to them, and they were like, "Well, what does it feel like?" And I was like, "It kind of feels like if someone was eating you out with a peppermint in their mouth."
Uh-huh.
Like, and they're like, "Oh," and I'm like, "Yeah, like that's how that's kind of how CBD feels to me anyway." So
I love that.
And they were like, "Huh, interesting." And I was like, "Yeah, like you could try it if you want."
So
Like,
did
I
you
don't
pass
know.
it? Did you pass it on to them?
I didn't, because I think I'm gonna keep it to myself. But like maybe when
I think you're really friends if you can pass on your lube and your
oh
your
yeah,
massage
no,
oils.
I definitely gave one of my friends a recommendation. I like pulled out my vibrator and I was like, "You need this," and I didn't give it to her. Obviously, I just explained how it worked, and she
one
went
she
and
needs.
bought it. She went and she bought it, and she was like, "Oh
Yeah.
yeah, that's a game changer."
So what's your favorite vibrator?
I really like the, grab it just to make sure I'm getting the name right.
It's within arm's reach, so
Oh
that
yeah,
you're
it's right by
serious about
the
this.
bed. Yeah, it is the Satisfier Pro 2. It's like
Uh-huh.
air pulse, so it's kind of like one of those ones that has like a little suction and has a
Yeah.
little like flutterer.
Nice.
So in that, like with the CBD oil, really feels, because like it has the like little flutter, which is like a
Mhm.
tongue. So like it really feels like somebody's eating you out with like a peppermint.
Right.
So
Yeah, that would be.
I
So that's
remember.
my
So
recommendation.
this is back to Jesse's parents' openness and stuff. I think, did your mom give you a vibrator?
Yeah, a rabbit. The little rabbit vibrator.
Yeah.
Oh
Like this
wow.
is really small, like one, AA battery in the thing.
Yeah, like a little bullet. Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember, like, this is one of the times I invited Jesse down to a wedding, and we got a little Airbnb or, a little, bed and breakfast type place. And it was one of the times this is before we were married. And
It's like the first time, I think. Yeah.
And she pulls out this vibrator, and I masturbated her with it. And like, it was really hot. And
Thank
really
you for
fun.
your service. We need more men like that.
Yeah, it was really fun, and the little rabbit ears were vibrating and making things very enjoyable, and then I think we probably traded off, and Jesse got to play with me a little bit, but it was just like it was my first experience, like playing with a vibrator and a woman at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think too, like on that same like note, like watching your partner masturbate is like, and I think I'm weird about people watching me masturbate, because I think I don't like it when people watch me, but I like watching my partner masturbate because it teaches me how like they like things,
Right.
Yeah, I would say I agree with you completely on that. It's fun to just see what they like, what feels
exactly
good.
Like you're like, okay, like and I mean, I guess that like comes to another thing that I wanted to ask you guys about, which is like communication in the bedroom. How do you, I mean, I know how I do it, obviously, but was that something that you needed to navigate, especially because, the way that your relationship started, you were doing like everything but, or like,
I would
how
say
has that morphed?
Yeah, we've definitely, I feel like, I don't know if I'm the only one like this, but I didn't want to say anything really. It was just like, lucky to be having sex, lucky to be doing this. And then as I've gotten older, it's like, no. Yep. Over there, a little to the left, you're doing nothing. That is not working at all. Like I'm very much, I don't want to say selfish, but when it's when we're on me, it's like, okay, I want this to be successful.
It's your time.
Yeah. And so Denny is always like, yeah, like afterwards, like that was so hot when you told me this, or
that is it right there. I mean, it changes the game when you have the confidence and the ability to communicate exactly what you want in kind of
Oh,
a
yeah.
hot way. Cause it's like anybody trying to please somebody else wants to know, like, what can I do to make it better? And
Right.
so it's definitely helpful, and it's hot to know. And but the other thing I was thinking is, like, it's definitely good to have verbal communication about sex, but I think some of the hottest sex we've had too is when you're actually using nonverbals to communicate. Where it's almost like I wouldn't say Jesse and I do a lot of role play or anything like that, but it's like if you kind of go into animal mode, like how would animals communicate with each other?
Oh yeah,
And,
just like
and
moving
you're just
somebody.
silent, but you're just moving, or you're just like putting somebody in a position and just kind of like taking control like that.
Yeah.
That is also kind of hot. But I think we've failed in communication a lot of times too, where it's like I'll get something in my mind of how I want a whole session to go or something like that, and I won't communicate that to Jesse, and it doesn't go well, or it doesn't go how I expect, and then I'm disappointed, or she's like, what are you doing? What are you trying what are you trying to do?
What is this?
And it's really it's foundationally a lack of communication, or that we're on the same page about something.
Right. Yeah, it takes so much work.
Yeah,
but it's difficult.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it just definitely has gotten better as we've gotten, been married longer and know each other's bodies better and our minds, and, more open, like we said. It's just when you start out and you're trying not to hurt feelings or expect them to kind of read your mind or know what you like, it just does not work out well. So we've just found that you do need to talk about it, and you do need to share. And if you don't, it's, kind of your own fault kind of thing.
Yeah. And I mean, there's the dreaded, fake orgasm. That, I mean, I think every
I have
guy...
to have fake orgasms every once in a while.
Liar.
I feel like most men that I know are very confident that a woman has never faked with them.
Yes.
And they almost definitely have. Like, they almost definitely have. So I think like that, but that's not, like, number one, that's not on you.
Right.
Like, that's not on the man. Like,
right.
She didn't communicate with you. Like, you easily could have gotten her there if she had communicated with you.
Right.
And I mean, I don't know. Like, and sometimes there's no shame either. And this is something that I learned in my last relationship. There is no shame in not finishing, because sex is about connecting and having fun and feeling vulnerable and intimate with another person. There doesn't necessarily have to be an orgasm. Sometimes it can just be fun.
Exactly. That's a really good point.
Yeah, you hit on a really great point there, because it's like going into sex or sexuality at a younger age, like, you think it has to build up to this climax. And some of the most fun that Jesse and I have had is just where, like, we're hot, we're horny or whatever, and all of a sudden, we just have sex for a little bit, but it doesn't end in orgasm for either of us. And then it's just like we're hotter 2 hours later, and we do it again. And then we do it 2 hours later. It's like this, like, just sex throughout the day. It's like one of the hottest things ever to not orgasm and just kind of keep it hot and keep it going.
It's like edging. It's like you're edging with each other. So yeah, I think that's like, I think we need to be talking about that more, because I think that, I've had conversations with, like, girlfriends about how, like, the guy didn't finish, and is that a reflection of me? And it's not like, it's, there's so many other things. I think we're conditioned to think that men want sex all the time, are always horny, are always ready to go, are always primed and ready to, like, blow a load. And that's just not, like, men get in their heads too.
Yeah, I think I am definitely guilty of that. Like, if he doesn't, I'm like, what's going on? Like, are you not hot for me? Like, what did I do wrong? And
it's a natural impulse, I think.
Yeah, I find myself, like, if he doesn't, finish or whatever, it's like, he could be in his head, but I take it like, okay, I wasn't doing something right.
Right.
I should have been doing something different.
But there's a lot going on in a man's head, probably. And I've learned to just like be okay with what's going on, you know, like if, you know, I'm not getting towards climax or whatever, it's just like, this is just fun. It doesn't have to go there.
Exactly. Yeah.
Or,
no.
you know, or if I'm like really in my head, trying to think like even if there's like, I don't know, we've been having sex a lot and I don't have an erection right now or something like that. It's like, okay, just relax. And like, as soon as you relax and just get your mind on something else, like I'll eat Jesse out or something like that. And then all of a sudden I've got an erection.
Yeah. The pressure does not help.
Yeah.
Putting that pressure on yourself.
Yeah. I think that for me, Denny always wants to pleasure me, which is a gift, definitely. But sometimes it's fun just to get him off quick or like jerk him off quick and have that be the session, you know, for me. I'm like, it's fun for me to make you come too, you know?
Yeah.
So we just have the give and take of that, but feeling good about all the different ways that it goes.
Yeah. There's so many, I think that when we're in like long-term relationships and oh my gosh, like 15 years, you know, you fall into routine. You fall into, okay, I know that this is what's going to get the job done. Okay, that I know that this is what will work. Like,
right.
I know this. Like, this is a surefire way, and it's just like, no, like, it's like just slow down and take a minute and like explore, try something new. You know?
Yes, and I do think that is one experience or one thing that we are trying to figure out as we've been married for 15 years. You know, like, how do we keep it hot? How do we try new things? Because, you know, we know each other so well. We know our bodies so well. We've had sex thousands of times, you know, and how do you keep it hot? And
I think like being spontaneous is a big part. You know, one of the big things I think is just being spontaneous, doing it in different places.
Or like you said, following that feeling when you have it right then and there, not waiting, you know, and saying, we'll do this later, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
And then, I mean, there's just a ton to explore in sex and sexuality too. I mean, like I was listening to one of Layla's podcasts and she just talked about, is it voyeurism? Is that?
I don't know.
Where, you know, where there's basically other people watching you have sex.
Oh, okay.
And just how hot that was for her. That's something we've never experienced, but it's like, I think everybody in their mind, you know, it's kind of like a fantasy, like, that would be kind of hot. You know?
Yeah. Or people are completely horrified by it, but
yeah,
a lot of the guys that I've been with are completely horrified at that prospect. And I'm like,
I don't think I would be.
Why? Like,
so that brings me to a question for you. How do you handle that with your podcast and in relationships? Do the guys or girls you date, do they say like, okay, I don't want to be talked about?
I mean, that's a great question. Like, and I have to figure that out because, you know, when I started the podcast, I was in a long-term relationship, and that ended in September of 2021. And so I've not been dating. I've been very focused on, you know, in retrospect, it's not surprising that the breakup happened, but I was quite blindsided at the time. And it's been a process of just really focusing on healing. You know, I'm doing career changes. And so, and I'm dating myself, right? Like I'm taking the time to do that. So I haven't been single for this long for a decade, actually.
That's really, keep going. Sorry if I interrupted.
No. And it just like, so I don't know yet how I'm really going to handle it. I think like, you know, the way that I did it with my partner is I would just call him my partner or my boyfriend. And I didn't talk in a ton of detail about our sex life a lot. I mean, and luckily like part of that is just because I'm interviewing other people, right? Like, but I would sometimes. And he was completely okay with it as long as, you know, I didn't use his name. So yeah, but we'll see. I would never use somebody's name. I think that's probably like a big rule, but
yeah.
And look, if you tell me you want something private, like I'll keep it private.
Right. Sure. I was going to say, you said something that kind of got my mind going back to the early part of Jesse and my relationship. And that is dating yourself. You know, and I think no matter what topic it is, whether it's relationships or money or whatever, as soon as you relax and, stop yearning for this thing you think you want or whatever, it's like all of a sudden it falls in your lap. And that kind of reminds me of like Jessie before she met me, what was going on then.
Yeah, I was in a long-term relationship and really wanting it to work, and it was just not working. And as much as I loved the person, he was just not moving forward into like a serious place. And so I knew I had to break it off with him, and I was teaching at the time and broke up with him. And I was just loving being single, like not looking for a boyfriend, loving where I was teaching, didn't want to have to move. I just was loving the time. And then Denny fell in my lap,
Yep.
And I was like,
literally,
oh gosh, I was not looking for a boyfriend at all. Didn't want to move from Minnesota to Texas. It was just a very funny, like you said, when you were dating yourself, like very funny space, because I was not didn't want a serious relationship.
Oh yeah. My past 3 relationships, all of my relationships in my 20s, occurred very much when I wasn't planning on them occurring. In fact, I think my past relationships were all supposed to be rebounds.
Yeah.
The longest rebounds ever.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's been such an important process, and especially like, just from a very personal point, like me, somebody who's very focused on making other people, prioritizing other people. And, just I have people pleasing tendencies. So, it's been really good for me to be like, well, what does Rachel want? Like you wanted this in this relationship with this person. Is that still actually what you want? Or is like, there's something else out there, that you actually, and, a lot of it, I still want the same things for much of it that I wanted in the relationship. But there are some things that, like, for example, I'm like, yeah, I think I want to buy a house. And that's something that we had discussed not doing in the relationship. So just really taking that time to be like, well, what do I want?
Right. Yeah. Celebrating that, because, then if you do end up getting married or whatever, then it's different forever. So like celebrate this time where it just can be all about you.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's the beauty of it, I think. So
yeah, because I'm kind of sitting here thinking, wait a second. So you're in your room alone and you've got a vibrator and lube by your bed, and nobody's going to come in and ask for water or food or just want to sleep with you.
Yeah. Yep.
It sounds glorious.
Complete freedom. Complete freedom. Yeah.
No, it's all perspective and timing.
Yeah. So I don't know how I'll really handle that. But it's something I think I've been like in such a process of healing for the past, 9 months. And it's only been recently that I've started being like, okay, like for future relationships, for future dating, like what am I looking for? What am I going to do? I've really been able to, in the past month or two, like really switch my perspective to be more about moving forward instead of grieving the past. And so like thinking about like what I do want, and thinking about how I'm going to handle the podcast is actually something that I literally was just started thinking about yesterday. So it's funny that you mention it.
Yeah. I just think it could be really cool, or it could be really intimidating for somebody,
Yeah. And you know what? The fact of the matter is, if it's intimidating, then you're probably not for me. Right.
Right.
Like,
that's a good filter.
Yeah. Like, if the fact that I do this is a source of anxiety for you, or you feel like you can't handle it, or you think that it's crass or whatever, then like, like I don't really need to waste my time with you then. Like
Jessie just heard something recently. It's like, I don't remember who it was, but it was, if you think I'm too much, go find less.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Or I've been thinking a lot about the quote, some people will think you're too much. Those people are not your people.
Yeah. That's a good one too.
They're not for you if they think that you're too much. And it's been an interesting journey with the podcast and, having a long-term partner. And I have been wondering, how I'm going to broach that. But as I do with almost anything, I'll probably just be like, yeah, I have this podcast. You can listen to it if you want. Like if you are lucky enough to end up inside of me at some point, you might be mentioned, you might not. We can talk about it.
I like it.
Yeah, that is awesome.
So that's probably, knowing myself, that's probably how I'll handle it.
Right. That's awesome.
Yeah. But I guess like take some time, talk about your products, give, we're running up on an hour here. I feel like I could talk to you both forever, but
I know.
Tell me, talk to me about the overall of the products, new things that you're working on, where people can find you, etc.
Yeah. Okay. So the big thing is we have a storefront at fantasticescapades.com, all one word. And then we only have 2 products right now. We kind of have 3, but Honeypot is our personal lube. It's a silicone-based CBD infused personal lubricant. And then we have an embroidered towel with the Honeypot logo on it. And that was just kind of fun. Just kind of Jesse and I, every once in a while, we don't want to do sheets every time we have sex. So we basically made a sex towel. We call it the sex towel.
Mm-hmm. Oh, my friends were like, what is that? It's a cum rag.
That's we could call it that
exactly.
too.
It was just like, do you have the sex towels? Perfect. Then we don't have to get up. We can just go to bed.
Exactly. Yeah.
Or in the truck. That's nice. When you go for a drive. So yeah, all the things.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then it's I don't know, but we have plenty of times where we have to strip the bed sheets too.
Yeah, as is right with the world.
Right. Yeah. And then and so we talked about Romantic Escapade as well. So Romantic Escapade, that's our massage oil
to get you in the mood for some Honeypot.
Yeah, exactly. So, and that's really fun. It's, we put, I didn't talk about all the ingredients, but the scent palette that we have in there is wild orange, rose, grapefruit, and vanilla. And it's just really good. The funny story about that is when we got 4 or 5 samples, we basically had everybody in the family like smell them and vote. And we calculated all the votes and we came up with this one as the best. And a lot of people love it, and we've got a lot of good feedback on it. In fact, another podcaster that we were introduced to tried it and said, this is the best massage oil I've ever tried. And I'm going to introduce you to somebody who's running a spa industry in California and see what he thinks about it. So
wow.
That was kind of interesting. And so that's kind of in the works. But the first day that Jesse and I had sex using Romantic Escapade, we did a whole back massage and everything was slippery and everything just slipped right in, and it was like amazing. And we just kind of like fell into each other in the bed in this scent aroma. And I reached over, grabbed my phone, and played Bon Jovi's "Bed of Roses." and it was the perfect song because it's like that rose really comes out strong, in it.
Yeah, and side note, your kids are going to be such fucking cool adults.
They really are. They are already such cool people, and they are gonna. Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, fun to have them a part of it.
That is really, really cool.
And then that last thing is the Fantasy Escapades, which we would love to find more people who are willing to share their stories, and that page is at fantasticescapades.com/escapades.
Okay.
And so it's under the Escapades tag or header on our main website. But there's some information about the community project, and then there's the Share Your Sexual Fantasy form, which is just about 4 or 5 questions, and it's all anonymous. There's no requirement to put an email in there or anything like that. And then you can hit submit. And then what we do is we just go in and find images that fit that story and kind of put them kind of in a card format and put them on there. And there's a few examples on the site, but really, really kind of a fun project and really rewarding just because it shows us that we're all human, we're all connected, and we have a lot of the same things going on in our minds.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And yeah, I guess any like last piece of advice for, people who are trying to be a little more sexually explorative?
I think for me, it would be probably 2 words. One is just confident,
Mm-hmm.
and confident in asking and going out there, and then the other is inviting,
Mm-hmm.
to go out, because I think a lot of people like are afraid of rejection or something like that, which it's pretty easy to get into that mindset of being
Sure.
afraid of rejection. But I think just to go out into the world and invite people along your journey, you'd be surprised that no matter what it is, whether it's sexual or otherwise, just going out and inviting people into your life or inviting them into what you're doing.
And I was going to say my 2 words or 4 words would be let go, just like let go and the other one was have fun, because sometimes sex is funny, and Denny and I'll just crack up after things, and it's fun to be able to laugh with your partner.
Bodies are weird.
Yeah, bodies are weird, right? And so, yeah, it is. That would be my advice, is just have fun with it. And it's supposed to be enjoyable. And so.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, Dennis and Jesse, thank you so much for being on the show today. I've had a blast talking to you guys, and, definitely will, if anybody asks for a recommendation, I will send them your way. So
awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And the only thing I'll add is, I don't know if you saw my email, but we created a couple coupon codes for you to use with your guests, and that's something you can share and put out there in any way that you want. But
perfect.
So one of them is Wine Dine 6910. So you can use that, or use the other one that I created, and just you can do a host read ad or whatever you're feeling.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I will have to brainstorm and think about the best way to use that, because I would, I'll definitely put that in the episode notes for this episode too, that listeners can feel free to use.
Yeah.
Cool.
Awesome. Well, thank you both so much. And listeners, thank you for being here and listening. I hope that you had as much fun as I did. And thank you for listening to Wine, Dine, and 69. I am your host, Rachel Dalton, and let's keep talking.